Thank you for joining us on this episode of SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast. If you enjoy our monthly Senior Focus podcast, we can be downloaded and followed most anywhere you enjoy your podcasts, such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. SeniorLivingGuide.com provides their online users with a one-stop solution to help seniors and their caregivers find and connect with the best next step in senior housing solutions, such as independent, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care, or home health solutions, allowing you to age in place, all in one easy-to-navigate website. It's easy peasy. And I am Darlene Mahoney, your host for this podcast. And today, our guests are Dr. Pam Tronetti and Janet Rooks. Dr. Tronetti is an osteopathic physician who specializes in geriatrics. Janet Rooks is a social worker and a dementia care specialist. They work together at the Parrish Senior Consultation Center, where they focus on the care of patients with dementia. Dr. Tronetti is the Director of Aging Services at Parrish, and Janet Rooks coordinates Parrish Senior Solutions, which provides education, resources, and support for seniors and caregivers. So we are going to talk a little bit today about caregiving. When we think of caregiving, we have a vision of a loving mom who sacrificed herself for her family and now doesn't want to bother anyone and is appreciative of every single gesture. But the fact is that not all caregivers or care receivers are saints. I read an article a while ago about how to live with the grumpy old person. Because, you know, some people are not always just little sweet old ladies or little sweet old men. It talked about a caregiver for someone who's never happy. You can care for them and there's nothing you do that's going to make them happy. Someone who's complaining all the time, dealing with negativity, and the toll it can take on not just the caregiver, but really, honestly, the whole family.
Yeah. And, you know, I read an advice column every day in the paper, and the letter writer was a middle-aged woman talking about how she has to distance herself from her negative parents. She was like in her 40s, they're in their 60s, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen when you're in your 60s and they're in their 80s and they need care?
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
Yeah,
we've never seen that, have we?
Oh
Janet?
no,
never,
never seen her in my support group either. So you know, some people are born to give. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just natural born caregivers, just naturally born to give. Others have that caregiving trust upon them or thrust upon them. You know, they are just okay. It's your turn. You know, everybody else is left, and you know you're going to be taking care of them.
Right.
And you know. Some caregivers do it out of love, others out of necessity.
Right.
You know, your number's up. It's your turn. For example, I'm going to give you some examples of what caregiving, how they become caregivers. You know, they were abused. It was an abusive husband or an abusive father, and all of a sudden you're now caring for them. You might not want to be doing that, but now you are.
Yeah.
And all of that's boiling back up. And oh my goodness, now you're responsible for taking care of them.
Yeah, that has to be hard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And someone who was had a reckless lifestyle, drugs, alcohol, whatever, and now you're put in a position that you're having to make healthcare decisions for them, life decisions for them, and it's like, I don't want to do this, but now you're having to because they made poor decisions regarding their health, regarding their lifestyle, this sort of thing, and now you're having to make healthcare decisions for them. They weren't there for you. They were estranged family members, and now they're in the hospital. The hospital's calling you, social services is calling you, the state of Florida, the state of whatever state you may be in is calling you, saying, you know, you're the legal next of kin, and we need you to make some health care decisions, or where are they going to go?
And right. You used to make those phone calls.
And I used to make those phone calls, and it is quite interesting. And sometimes they're manipulative. Those individuals are needy. They are guilt-inducing, and they tell you, well, I took care of you, you're going to take care of me. And it gets it's really sad when all that occurs, but those individuals are there. And the caregivers are going, I don't want to do this. You know, I left home when I turned 18, and now I'm being thrust into taking care of this person that I don't even like, let alone want to do this. And now here I am.
And sometimes that caregiver that you're calling, or that person you're calling, they're having their own issues. Maybe they just lost their job, lost their house, and it's, well, I need some place to live anyway. Maybe this will work out. Well, maybe they've changed. You know, maybe I can't afford to live on my own, or I'm raising a child alone. I guess I'll just move back in with Dad or Mom or Aunt Sally or whoever, and I'll, well, it'll work out. It'll be I guess I'll do that.
Or they're yearning for that relationship they never had.
Yeah.
And that is really sad when they're hoping. They're hoping and they're trying to make something happen. And you've got some cantankerous individual that is not going to change. But we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah, and my guess is a lot of it is more guilt and obligation that a lot of folks feel when they get that call, that, you know, they really kind of feel a lot of that as well. So what if you find yourself in that position?
Well, you know, evaluate your own situation before you get in too deep. You know, what are your motives? You know, what's happening? Listen to our podcast on negative people. You know?
Yeah, we did a really great podcast on that. I cannot remember the name of it.
Dealing with negative
Dealing
people.
with negative. I can't remember the title of it, but it is Dealing with Negative People and how to get rid of the negative emotions and people destructive in your life. So definitely look that up.
I think it was like a get out and stay out.
Get out and stay out. That was what it was, yes.
Yeah. You know, recognize the patterns of behavior. You know, have you become codependent? Are you getting sucked back into a codependent relationship? You know, are other family members guilting you into doing this? You know, why are you even considering it? Understand your own motives. Is it a financial thing, as you mentioned, Doctor? Is it, you know, that you think you have to because you lost your job, you have nowhere else to live? Do you think that, you know, it's going to be better this time? Or understand your motives.
Or you want that fairy tale ending.
Absolutely. You know, do you want that relationship with your mom or your dad or your whomever that may be, and you fill in the blank, that you didn't have before? Yeah. And you're trying to make that relationship perfect, you know, so that you have that fairy tale. You know, there's always options. You know, they're getting out of the hospital, they're whatever. There's always options.
Right.
And it may not be that they're going home and you're going to be there caring for them. There's always options. And you just need to speak up to the social worker at the hospital, wherever. And I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. I'll help you find a facility. We'll pick out a good one and we'll, you know, because I can't do this. I won't do this. There's always options. You know, don't let people in your life tell you should and you have to. You know, you should do this. There's going to be people that are going to should all over you, and you should. You know, don't feel like you have to, you know, because you don't. Right. You know, you don't have to be that hands-on caregiver to where they're moving into your house. You're moving into theirs to take care of them, because if it didn't work before, it's probably not going to work now.
Yeah, if it's going to negatively affect your life, where it alters your life, it's not going to be a good thing for either one of you, probably, I would imagine. And there's one thing that you always say about guilt, and I always have to bring this up because I love it. Tell us, Janet.
Guilt is a gift you give yourself.
Yes.
No one else can make you feel guilty. So if you're doing that caregiving out of guilt, if you're taking care of that person because you feel guilty because of something you did years ago, it's not going to go away. That guilt is still going to be there. You're never going to get forgiveness because you left and you did something or something like that. You're not going to get forgiven of that guilt to where that guilt goes away.
Yeah, I still love that. So I want to talk about each individual situation. So let's talk about what about the grumpy person?
Well, you know, the older we get, the more like ourselves we become.
That's scary.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
It's amplified version of our person's basic personality. So if you're a little paranoid and you're a little suspicious or anxious or controlling, the older you get, you're going to get more so like that.
My husband is in training to be the guy who says, "Hey, you kids, get off my lawn."
And he's going to be really, really good at it.
Yeah, he will.
He will. I think the world of her husband, but I can just see him, the grumpy old man sitting on the porch, just waiting for somebody to step on his property.
Yeah.
Love you, Ed. How did they manage before? Were they organized? Did they have control of their life? Did they make it to the doctor's appointments on time? Was everything okay? Or were they that person that showed up late for everything? Was it always someone else's fault? Did they ever take accountability for anything? As they get older, they're going to become more who they were, who they are. Yeah. So, and in my office, I give out what I call behavioral do's and don'ts, behavioral tips, behavioral management tips. I give it to my caregivers, and I tell them to read it and to learn it. And I'll say there's not a test other than to see how you're doing. But it's very, very important for my caregivers to have those tips, because you only have control of the person in the mirror, the reflection in the mirror. And it's very, very important, because you can't change the person you're caring for. You can change the way you interact with them. And so that grumpy person you're caring for that you just, you're not real sure about, you don't really like the way they interact with you, you can change the way you interact with them. There's also dementia care giver websites that I recommend all the time, alzheimers.org and caregiver.org. There's some really good tips on there. There's little articles that you can read, pull out little nuggets that will help you along the way. 36-Hour Day is phenomenal. I mean, I just absolutely love that book.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
It's just wonderful.
Yes.
And support groups. Now, unfortunately, right now we've got this pandemic going on, and a lot of the support groups are not meeting on in person. But there's a lot of support groups online that you can get, attend, and pull little nuggets out of. So it's really good just to learn that you're not alone in this journey. I mean, it is a journey, but get that before you explode and say something that you can't ring, that bell that you can't unring.
Right. Right.
And also just talking to other people. We always say at the support groups, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry.
Absolutely.
So to talk to somebody who says, "Yeah, I'm going through it," and you laugh together. And it's okay to say to the person, "You know what, you hurt my feelings. When I made a really good dinner for you and you said it doesn't taste good, you hurt my feelings."
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even realize it.
Right.
They've just been
They're just grumpy.
cranking and rumping. Yeah.
And they might not have wanted a roast. They might have wanted a peanut butter sandwich. Use your words. But, it's that type of
your words.
Use your words. Use your words.
Yeah.
Not your emotions.
I like that. Use your words, not your emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Now,
sometimes the behavior is a complete change. What kind of causes that?
well, some people, it's an amplification. If you were anxious when you were younger, now you're more anxious. Other times it's like a complete change. They'll say, "My easygoing, happy-go-lucky dad is now angry, bitter, accusing." And medically, there's causes. It could be dementia. It could be depression. It could be that they're drinking alcohol and changing their personality. You don't know it. Maybe they have a lung problem. They're not getting enough oxygen, so they're feeling tired and listless as opposed to upbeat and energetic. Maybe it's a side effect of a medicine that's causing depression. So now this seems like a different person. So when you have that personality change, get to your medical provider and say, "Something's different. I need some blood work. I need you to look at these medicines. Could any of these cause this?" The other thing, dementia causes this egocentricity and disinhibition. So the disinhibition is your straight-laced family member is now telling dirty jokes at Sunday school. They're commenting on the waitress's looks. part of the dementia. And you have to learn how to cope with it, compensate, reel it in. And the other is the egocentricity. You have to stop what you're doing and take care of my needs right now. And that's where Janet comes in with the caregiver support group to say, how do I diffuse this situation and make it seem like I'm doing what they want me to do, but not right now.
Yeah. And you were talking about with the dementia, that filter that I refer to it as that filter, that the things that your mama taught you weren't supposed to say, it kind of diminishes as with that dementia get there. So you think about a net, and it gets holes in it, and those things start coming out that like a little kid will say things and say it out loud, and it just kind of like, oh my goodness gracious, so I'm gonna wash your mouth out with soap, but you can't wash Grandpa's mouth out with soap. You may want to, and talking out loud, and oh my goodness, and pointing out things that should not be pointed out. So it's not that you take Grandpa home and leave him there, but you just may say, and I had these little cards made up. It says, the person I'm with has dementia. Be patient. And it really is a great thing to have, so that if you go out to the bank, or you go to the grocery store, or you go out to a restaurant, you have those little cards there. And they really are just, it protects the person you're with, but it also helps the server or whomever that you just do that, because that's one thing with dementia. You can't tell that someone's got dementia until they're in the advanced stages of it, and then they'll have that blank stare. But unless someone knows that there's someone with dementia, but that way you're respecting their dignity, but and you're without explaining it.
I absolutely love that. We've never talked about doing that before, and I know that when I was with my dad and he had dementia, he would kind of do some like awkward things, and I would say, where he, wasn't seeing me, because I never said it in front of him, but I would say, yes, kind of whisper it, or kind of try to explain it. And this happened in the bank. This happened at a restaurant, where I was trying to let them know this was or at a car dealer where he was doing something he shouldn't have been doing. To let them know, we can't be doing this because he's in cognitive decline, is basically what I was trying to explain to them. So having that little card, that's really actually a great idea, because it does. You don't want to say it in front of them, because you don't want to embarrass them and do anything like that. I do really love that. But also the fact that they have dementia and it is changing their personality, because dementia with the depression can definitely change someone and make them a grumpy person, quote unquote. And understanding that you're fighting the disease, not the person. I know that that's a Dr. Tronetti quote from another podcast that we had, and it resonated with me so much that, when you're dealing with dementia patients or your dementia loved ones, you feel like sometimes you're arguing with that person, and you're not. It is a disease.
You're arguing with the disease.
And the disease always wins. Always.
Well, and remember, that person has lost control.
Yes.
The things that they used to do, they've lost control. They've lost control of their health. Someone else is making decisions for that. They've got a family member that's signing them to go into the doctor's office. They is talking about them. They've lost control of their health. They've lost control of their home. Whether it be family members coming, or they have a caregiver. It may be you as the primary caregiver, but they may have someone else coming in and sitting there looking at them. Sometimes they've lost their spouse, and they're mourning the loss of their spouse, and so now they may think their caregiver is their spouse because they have dementia. They may be making sexual overtures toward the caregiver. You never know. Their friends, they've lost their friends. They don't come around anymore. Their pets, because they couldn't care for the pet, it's gone. And everything's out of reach for them. Everything's turned upside down. They control what they can reach, and what they can reach is they strike out at the people that are there.
You always hurt the ones you love. Because they're safe, as you always say. I can't yell at my doctor because they might dismiss me from the practice, but I can yell at you because you're not going to kick me out of the house.
And you're always going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to come back because you're taking care of me.
Even kids do that. Even teenagers do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A teenager can strike out at their parents,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't normally do that with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe it's because they know that there is, an unconditional love that
Mm-hmm.
a parent has for a child. And so they know that they can express and lash out and they're still going to be accepted and loved regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same idea.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what if you become a caregiver, but you have to move in with someone that's experiencing these types of issues, and you have a whole family that's affected?
Mm-hmm. This can be really hard on the family, and they have to be able to be factored in, especially when we've seen school-age children in the home. It's really difficult. In other cultures, the needs of the parent, the senior, come first. I've seen folks, everybody quits their jobs and moves near the parent.
Yeah, that's true.
But in the United States, generally, the culture is our future. What do the kids need? And, sometimes it works out. Sometimes there's a toddler in the home and the older person loves that little child and they read together and they play together. But a lot of times the kid can't be a kid anymore. No, we can't go to your swim meet because we have to take grandma to the doctor. No, you can't have your friends over because it upsets grandma. No, you can't play your videos because it's too loud and grandma has to, you can't. And then it's a lot of resentment
Right.
of the young person against the grandparent.
Yeah, and also there'll be some resentment toward mom and dad because you have allowed, I can't do the ball game. I can't do the things I want to do, and you've selected her or him over me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of that. And some people find themselves in a situation because of finances. They may have lost their jobs, so moving in and taking care of mom, dad, or being there, or taking care of grandma. We're going to go live with grandma. Mom, I've lost my job, so I'll go take care of grandma.
Or you justify it and say, well, we'll save money for our kids' college education, so it'll all work out.
Yeah. Or I'll just move in on a temporary basis, and we'll save some money because we're going to buy a house or we're going to build a house. So we'll stay there and take care of grandma because we don't want to put her in the home. Mm-hmm. It'll save some money. So, families need to be families. Mm-hmm. And that separation, if you will, hire some help. It's okay. It is okay to hire the help. But, look into adult daycare. Let grandma stay there at night and separate the families to go to daycare or respite care, where that it's on a temporary basis.
Yeah, we actually have some clients that just specifically do memory care daycare. Mm-hmm. And that's all that it just specifically deals with memory care. So I think that's, looking specifically for that. Those options do exist.
Yeah, the daycare has been proven to be very effective with individuals with dementia. And it may be that the seniors' needs are better met in assisted living, whether it be in a memory care, as you were saying, or not. They need to be around with people their own age. The small children. I'm not saying don't have the small children around because they're little encyclopedias, but or the seniors in little encyclopedias. But just keep in mind that what you were saying, doctor, as far as the resentment, it's going to be there. It might not come out immediately, but it will come out eventually.
And the other thing that we've seen is the senior is taking out the grumpiness on the child because you didn't raise your kids that way. Kids are meant to be seen and not heard. So the grandparents upset at how the child's acting. The parents are upset because they don't think their kid should be talked to that way. And then the child's upset because they just don't know where to turn.
There's no patience all the way around.
And sometimes the grandparent will yell or treat the grandchild the way they raise their children. And, let's face it, the parenting styles have changed over the years. And they don't parent. We didn't parent the way our parents parented us, and it's all changed. So it gets a little bit
Messy?
dicey, messy, scary. And it's interesting.
Janet, you always say you can go back to being child.
You can go back to being a child. You can go back to being that special person that does special things. But we're talking about taking care of somebody you don't like. So here you are. You're going to be having someone in your home that you don't like, or you're going to be there taking care of somebody that you don't like, and then you're going to be introducing your small children there, and there's that kind of resentment. And now you've got her yelling at your kids and yelling at your little one and thinking that that's you. And it's like, oh my goodness, no, don't just be there for finances.
Jen, I think you just gave somebody permission to say no.
Yes. You are absolutely right. And I gave them permission to explore other options. And whatever those options may be that best meets their needs. And they're there. And we'll find them.
Yeah. So I think the key is don't move in with someone that you don't get along with just because for financial reasons. Because at the end of the day, it's going to cost you more. It may not be financially, but it's going to cost your family.
That's right.
So what about the spouse that now, so say they did decide to make this move. So you have a spouse that now has to take care of someone that has fallen. Oh, so this is kind of a different situation, I guess. It's a spouse that now has to take care of someone that he has fallen out of love with, but that's his spouse, so he's now responsible, or she's responsible for that person.
That never happens.
Oh,
it does.
It does, and you see sometimes, the divorce rate's clearly much higher than it used to be, but spouses would stick together, for the children, and then they would stay together for a long period of time. And sometimes you'd wonder, why are these people still married? They sit at the table, they don't speak, they don't have anything in common, and they bicker and they nitpick each other. And as they age, they're still together, and then at some point, one is taking care of the other, and they don't even like each other anymore. So that's a tough one.
It is. And when we first started, the women would tell me, I stuck with him because you don't understand. I couldn't, as a woman, get a car loan, get an apartment, sign a lease. I was stuck.
And the money's all in his name. The money's all in his name. And I'm waiting for him to die.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's true. Most people don't say it out loud, but I've heard it. And I've heard the kids say, we were hoping Dad would die so Mom would have a few years of peace where she could eat what she wanted and watch the TV shows that she wanted.
And travel.
And do whatever. But there are people who are like the Lockhorns. There's a country western song about me and that sweet woman have a license to fight.
Okay.
So you mentioned the other family members. They're the ones who have to come in and say, Mom, you're killing yourself. You need help. We are giving you permission to use daycare, use assisted living. It said, till death do us part, and in sickness and in health, but no.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and we talk about the risk of caregivers. 30% of caregivers die before the person that they're caring for do, the care receiver. It's due to stress, self-deprivation, ignoring their own medical needs. They don't go to the doctor. It's a big issue. They spend so much time trying to make sure that other person is cared for that they don't go in for their preventatives. They don't go in for that checkup. They ignore those warning signs. And, and I'll ask my caregivers, well, when was the last time you've been to the doctor? Do you check your blood pressure? Well, I'll go over to the grocery store, or when I'm picking up his medicine, I'll check my blood pressure at the drugstore. Go to the doctor.
That caregiver fatigue.
Yeah.
Caring for someone they don't like that's grumpy.
Yeah. And I'll have to encourage them, as you mentioned, there is daycare. There's in-home care. Get it. Accept it. And, and I've had to rally the kids, the adult children in and do almost like a coup, an intervention, saying, hey, this has got to happen. We need some help here. She needs some help. He needs some help. We got to get this done. And, and the adult children a lot of times will say, I had no idea. They put up this front that everything was just fine. And I know you've seen it too, Doctor, because they will. I mean, it's like,
they had no idea.
They had no idea.
Until Mom keels over and is in the hospital, and now they're taking care of Dad, and they're like, I had no idea how bad it was.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm so glad that you're able to provide these services, Janet, that for these families. I just love the fact that Parrish offers these services where you can bring the family in and really talk to them, because not everybody does that. So I love that. So I think we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about second marriages, because that's a whole different ballgame.
It is.
Yep.
All righty.
Mm-hmm.
At Parrish Healthcare, we believe in our community. We believe in keeping our community safe. We believe in the art of healing. We believe in healing patients, healing families, healing communities. We believe in the best and brightest working together for the common good. At Parrish Healthcare, our team focuses on you as an individual, because every life is a work of art to us. Parrish Healthcare, where the art of healing comes to life. Visit parrishhealthcare.com/healthaware for a free health risk assessment.
Hey, Mom, how's the retirement home search coming?
Oh my gosh, I'm just so stressed out. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, why are you so stressed? What's the matter?
I don't know where to find anything. I just need everything in like one place and know what all the options are.
Does the idea of searching for senior housing seem overwhelming and you just aren't sure where to even begin? SeniorLivingGuide.com has great news for you. We offer a one-stop solution to take the stress out of your senior housing search. At SeniorLivingGuide.com, both our statewide Florida edition book and website are created to make your senior housing search very easy for you to navigate. We provide details on communities, including retirement, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care, and home health, allowing you to decide which best fits your needs and then connecting you directly with those communities. Visit us online at SeniorLivingGuide.com and start your search today and start de-stressing.
At Parrish Healthcare, we believe every life is poetry in motion, motivated by strength and determination. As your bone, muscle, and joint healthcare partners, we believe in blending the art of healing with the science of medicine to keep your body in motion. We believe in healing patients, healing families, and healing communities. For a free orthopedic health assessment, visit parrishhealthcare.com/orthoaware. Parrish Healthcare, where the art of healing comes to life.
Welcome back, everyone. We have been talking about caretaking for someone that you may not enjoy taking care of because maybe they're grumpy or maybe they're just dealing with some things that are not making your life as a caregiver enjoyable, and some of the ways to kind of deal with it. And one of the things we want to talk about are dealing with it as a second marriage. So what are your recommendations, some of your recommendations, Dr. Tronetti, on that?
And I'm going to also expand, called like a later life marriage.
Okay.
Too. Now, one of my favorite Dear Abby words of wisdom
Dear Abby
is, it's better to want something you don't have than to have something you don't want. And we've kind of seen that with some of the late life marriages.
Oh, haven't we? Haven't we? You know, people always have this vision of what it would be like, you know, to get married. You know, they usually include, but they don't usually include taking care of somebody. On that,
it's cruises and golf and travel.
Oh,
and our
absolutely.
families are going to get together.
You know,
being empty nesters. Yes.
You know, they think about, or they don't think about taking care of that person with dementia, lifting them on and off the toilet, changing diapers. You know, some people rush into these things, rush into these relationships and these marriages based upon what they've read on website. That first glimpse of, oh gosh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
I've read that little thing that says, oh, they love traveling. You know, I'd love to travel. I think I'll do that. Oh, I'm going to click. I'm going to read more about that person. So, you know, they don't take these things serious. It's more of a magical type relationship.
Right. And if I ask the tough question, all the magic is going to go away. All the fairy dust is going to blow away, disappear.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know too much, because if I know too much, then, like you say, the fairy dust.
Yeah.
The magic's gone.
The butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
We'll
is.
get to that. We'll do that one a few months from now.
But you really have to have your eyes open. And if you're planning on and you start talking about, you know what, yeah, we're going to get married. Okay, when that person gets sick, because it's when, not if.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the decision maker? Me as the wife of 3 years or the kids? And does this person have long-term care insurance? Who's going to pay for assisted living? Me as the wife of 3 years, or is it going to come out of their bank account?
Yeah.
You have to look at the facts and make these tough decisions.
Yeah. And where are the adult children? And who's in the wheel? And
of course, our worry is who's on the living will.
who's on the living will? Who's the healthcare surrogate? I mean, you're the legal next of kin because of that marriage, but that healthcare surrogate trumps it. So, yeah, it gets a little interesting, for lack of a better word. You know, we meet people who are in these situations all the time, and they can't just walk away. They say they want to, but they cannot legally just walk away. They
Yeah.
won't. Yeah, like I said, they want to, but they cannot.
Yeah. So definite thoughts there on second marriages that are especially later in life. Really want to consider.
Yeah, I mean, at any time, and we say that because we picture marriages like 21, 22, and
Yeah.
then there's folks who get married in their 30s, 40s as a second marriage, and they have decades to go.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of folks after age 65, and, you know, okay, you're 65 and your husband's 80. Everybody thinks I'm just going to be healthy and fine and turn 90 and drop over dead, and that just isn't what usually happens.
Not in our practice.
Somebody's going to need care.
Yeah. So, and I think this happens a lot of times. It's someone who has to take care of their abusive parent. You know, parents can always not be amazing, and but children love them regardless. And you can have a really rocky relationship with your mom or your dad, and you still love them. And at some point, they're going to need care, and you may be put in a position where you have to take care of them potentially as an option. So, Janet, what do you recommend on that?
Well, you know, often there's several children who have distanced themselves due to that situation. And, you know, there'll be one child that'll come back, you know, codependent, or to try to mend the fence, try to make things better, or they're vulnerable. You know, they have been manipulated to come back, and it's really sad. They'll take on that responsibility, and a lot of times they're put right back into that same circumstance. That person becomes abusive again, or it never left.
It could actually be worse, don't you think? As
Exactly.
you get older, it just kind of is amplified.
Absolutely, because as mentioned, we become more of who we are as we get older. And that grumpy, I'll just say that grumpy old man just becomes more grumpy and more controlling, and that daughter just becomes that little girl again that was
Yeah.
abused, neglected, and now she's becoming exploited
Right.
and taken advantage of it. You know, you need support options, and may need personal counseling. You know, the support groups, every now and then it'll come up in the caregiver support group. And, you know, they will help each other in the group, but a lot of times it's professional counseling. And if you are in that if you had that type of relationship as a child, don't become that adult caregiver.
Yeah.
Do not become
Right.
that adult caregiver.
So that's the just say no portion.
Just say no.
Yeah, and a lot of folks don't understand. Folks will come in and tell us that this person is like leaving dirty diapers in the middle of the room, and they're yelling and they throw things, and we'll say, well, you know, it's the dementia. And they're like, no, it isn't. This is how they have always been, only now it's even worse. And we're seeing those long-term where the caregiver is being abused.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're right. The personal counseling, the getting yourself strong and healthy to see, do I need to keep doing this?
I mean, you can't just walk away when you become that caregiver if that person, because that's abandonment and neglect, because you've assumed that role as a caregiver. But there's options available. And, you know, a social worker, the doctor's office can help you find the resources to segue out of it, but don't just walk away because if you've become that caregiver, because that's abandonment. And I don't want to tell anybody just walk away because I don't want you to get in trouble, because you would, but there's ways of getting out of it.
Right. Is the Council on Aging in certain areas, is that a good resource typically?
The area office on aging, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of mention that.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing we've seen every so often is you meet this person who comes in and they're like an angel. They're just, thank you, honey, sweetheart, they're darling. And the kids say, my life was a nightmare. This person was a monster as a parent. And now that they have dementia, they're sweet as an angel full of pie. Everybody loves them. And I still hate them because of what they did to me as a child. And I'll never resolve it. I'll never get to tell them, because now they're in this stage of dementia. And they have kind of a push me, pull you feeling, and they need some validation. They need some support.
Yeah, and those individuals will also need the counseling. There's some really good counseling programs for that. A lot of times in the support group, I'll recommend journaling. I know when I was in grad school, some of the programs that the classes and stuff, an empty chair. I mean, that may sound a little bit, but yelling at an empty chair. The things you can't say to that person that may have dementia, you can say to that empty chair. But journal, tell them in that journal how you really feel. And then shred it if you don't want somebody to see it. But you can get it out, because you need to get it out of your heart, get it out of your mind, because you definitely don't want it coming out while you're caring for that person.
Yeah.
And, you know, and bottom line is, you might not be the person that needs to be caring for them. If you've got all that resentment and anger and hostility, you need to walk away after you've made arrangements for somebody else to be there. Yeah, because sometimes you can't resolve it.
No, and that can change you. And that you don't want anything like that to make you become a person that you don't like.
Yeah.
And I think that can definitely happen if you're dealing with someone that you don't like and someone that's hurt you in the past. Then it may turn you into a person that you don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kind of mention that. And so what about other relatives? So it may not be your parent or someone else. It may be just a distant relative or something like that suddenly you find doesn't have anyone else to care for, but suddenly needs care.
We'll see that you're right. It's not just spouse and mom and dad. It's you get a phone call from the hospital. Your Uncle Willie is here, and we've tracked you down, and he needs someone to make decisions to put him in assisted living and give him care and go to his house and clean it up. And all of a sudden, it's like it's on you.
That's a very unfair burden.
It is.
It can be.
But
right?
most people think, okay, I'll step up and I'll make this decision and I'll clean up their house and I'll do this, and then it'll be over. Wrong.
Right.
Wrong.
Right.
You know, but there's they realize that there's the legal ramifications of assuming that role as caregiver. You know, I have talked to people that say, well, I'm not their caregiver. Yes, you are. Once you come in this door, once you call and make that appointment, once you discharge from the hospital, and you can fill in the blank of this whole list of things that you've done, you're the legal caregiver. And the key term I just used is legal. You are their legal caregiver. And you can't just walk away and say, oh, I'm through with this. I mean, wipe my hands and I'm through. You're making decisions. You're taking responsibility. You're paying bills. You're doing all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times what they'll do is assume that power of attorney so they can pay bills. They're not exploiting them. They're just doing what's necessary to get over this little hump. And then they'd like to hand it off because they want to get on with their life.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
They thought they were doing a favor.
They were doing a favor.
And now they're like,
yeah,
got the whole shebang.
And then I said, well, I don't want to do it anymore. Well, you know, there's agencies, the private case managers that are in the community, they can do that. But if you walk away, the state's going to get involved, and you could get into big trouble.
Yeah.
There's legal ramifications there. Sometimes there are caregivers that are nearby that just didn't want to be involved. And they can just not be involved. But if their name and they're just neglecting that person, then that's another situation.
And I think we've seen, the niece lives in town, but the power of attorney lives in another city, the son or daughter. And they say, if you could just help out for a while. And then you get to the point where the caregiver in town says, you know what, I think they need to be in assisted living, and the son power of attorney says, no, I think you're doing a great job, just keep doing what you're doing. So you're not getting the cooperation of the actual
Power of attorney.
And then what does that niece or nephew or grandchild do? They're kind of stuck, and they need some help.
Those are things that I had definitely not thought about, as far as taking on a responsibility as a favor, and then finding that it becomes something that is now your primary responsibility. So,
and it gets really interesting from a social worker standpoint, is that to assume that role that you don't even realize you're assuming, because you're just trying to help out. And then everything is being done, but your life's been placed on hold. And you're right, a family member out of town making all the decisions, pulling all the cords, all the strings, and it gets very very complicated. And
we've seen people put themselves in a financial hole, an emotional hole, and then come to find out the person had long-term care insurance. They could have been paying for a caregiver or moved to assisted living, or they had $500,000 in the bank somewhere.
And if you talk to the patient, they would, or the individual, they'd rather be in a assisted living than, because they didn't like that person being in their home anyway.
And that's the other thing of moving to assisted living for folks who are grumpy and complaining. Give them something else to complain about. They're not complaining about you anymore. They're complaining about
everything at the assisted living.
Exactly. There you go.
Or nothing about the assisted living.
Exactly. So you also have people that have substance abuse or mental health issues. So this can make it more of an issue. And it can definitely affect people's personality. I mean, that's with anyone, and I'm sure that it just makes it worse for elderly people. So what are some ways you can kind of combat that?
Well, there's Al-Anon and Narcan.
You have to educate yourself about how do I interact with somebody with an alcohol substance abuse disorder. And you're going to learn that at those meetings of boundaries and
so you may be learning that on the fly.
You might be, but you have to make the time to learn it. Otherwise, it can really chew away at you because you're thinking, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Right.
And I love codependency and Codependency No More, or Beyond Codependency, because there's so many codependent individuals out there that they're getting something out of it. They're trying to work through either an abusive situation or a neglected situation. The caregiver has to understand that they're getting what they're getting into. They need to be realistic. As we said, educate themselves about what they're trying to get out of it, but also, educate themselves about the disease. The person they're caring for, medically what's going on with them, but also physically what their needs are. Emotionally, why is this person acting this way? Now, I'm not saying go out here and, get the psych books, but, understand what's going on.
You might need the psychiatrist.
You might need the psychiatrist.
To get involved.
Yeah.
Right. If there's a mental health issue, there's so many different diagnoses out there right now. Who knows what that person may be battling?
Yeah.
But and then substance abuse on top of that.
But talk to the primary care doctor or the geriatric specialist and get them referred to a psychiatrist. Talk to the person, but let it come from the doctor.
Right.
Because they're going to shut you down as their caregiver. Oh, you don't know anything. Let it come from the doctor and get that referral out there to be addressed, because you may find that, oh, yeah, I'll go because I've got somebody that's going to listen to me and I can, and get it addressed. Join a support group.
And I just didn't want to forget NAMI, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, is the greatest support group for folks caring for someone with a psychiatric illness.
Oh, yeah, and there's a chapter in every town.
And depression would fall under that, correct? If you're dealing with someone that's fighting depression, would fall under that. So I think that's probably the most common mental illness, right? Okay.
Yeah. And, and you as a caregiver may need some counseling yourself, but be open with your doctor. Let your own personal doctor, let them know what you're going through. That, I'm doing this. I'm involved in this. I'm agonizing over this role of caregiving, and, and I'm struggling. Be honest with your doctor.
And they might need to give you an antidepressant, but they also might need to help you find this isn't working and it's okay.
Yeah.
Give you permission to place someone or to hire help.
Yeah. And, I'm coordinator of Senior Solutions. I have people coming into my office weekly of saying, I am stressed out of being a caregiver. What is available in the community? What can I do? I need help.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I do as the coordinator of Senior Solutions. As a social worker that has a master's degree in counseling, I listen to people. You need someone to listen to you, and then we figure out what the solutions may be. There's not a solution to everything, but there's an answer to everything.
Right. And with people that are taking care in general, if you are taking care of a grumpy person that you don't like, even if it's somebody that you love and they're just grumpy and this is really the hardest thing you're doing in your life, it can affect you mentally and cause you to have issues that maybe you didn't have before, like depression and some of these things. You don't want it to get to that point. You want to be able to talk to someone and find support groups and different things that are outlets for you in order to maintain your own mental health. I think that's important as well. So
yeah, I'm pretty convinced that caregiving is the hardest thing you will ever
100%.
do in your life.
It is.
Yeah. So to summarize, the reality, since you said that, the reality is that caregiving is hard work and you have to make really tough decisions. Tough love, we've really talked about that too, has to be an option, and you have to enter this with your eyes wide open. And just be very realistic about the outcome at the very end. Any parting thoughts, ladies?
I think look before you leap, know what you're getting into, and recognize that once you're the caregiver, you can't just walk away. But there's options out there to help you.
And keep in mind, you might not be the right person to be that caregiver, and it's okay if you're not. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It might be time to talk to other family members, have a family meeting, and decide for that person, if they're not able to make decisions for themselves, what's the best solution for them. And it might not be you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, ladies. That's the end of this podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please check us out anywhere you listen to music or podcasts. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast. We have lots of podcasts that are senior solutions and resources for seniors' everyday lives. Thank you. Have a great day.